everyone. We're going to call to order the July 23rd meeting of the Anderson Township Zoning Commission. I'd like to have a motion to approve the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda as proposed.
Second.
Commissioner Eliff, a second. Call the roll.
Mr. Eliff?
Yes.
Mr. Gothard?
Yes.
Ms. DiBaggio?
Yes.
Mr. Boone?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes. All right, at this point, we'll look to approve the minutes. The first one, we have two meetings. First one is March 26th of 2018. I believe we have the right set of commissioners here that were at that meeting to approve them. I have a motion.
Mr. Lewis, I just had one correction on that. On the case that ends just before 1/2018, they just need to add the vote tally on that. It wasn't on the minutes. I don't have a page number for you. Did you find it?
Which page is it? It's right there.
So, yeah,
That's up in the corner.
13.
On page 13, there's not a vote tally for the case.
Sorry. Other than that, they looked okay to me.
Can you tell us what the vote tally was? I believe it was 5-0.
I believe it was.
Okay. So with the amendment to the meeting notes on page 13 of the vote tally being 5-0, a motion to approve the minutes with the amendment?
I'll make that motion to approve.
Second?
I'll second.
That was Commissioner Goddard.
Mr. Eliff?
Yes.
Mr. Gothard?
Yes.
Ms. DiBaggio?
Abstain.
Mr. Boone?
Abstain.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes. Okay, and the second set of minutes is for May 21st, 2018. Again, I believe we have more than 3 commissioners that were at the meeting.
Yes.
Any amendments? Motion to approve the minutes as recorded.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second. Mr. Boone, second.
Commissioner Eliff, seconded.
Mr. Eliff?
Yes.
Mr. Gothard?
Yes.
Ms. DiBaggio?
Yes.
Mr. Boone?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Abstain. Okay. Now to the current business. The first case is case 2-2018. It's a PUD, so we'll have a quasi-judicial hearing. It's concerning the property located at 8251 Beechmont Avenue. And because it is quasi-judicial, I'm going to read approximately 6 paragraphs, so I thank you for your patience. First, I'll outline the procedures the Commission will follow in the hearing in deciding this matter. Under the zoning resolution, our decision is subject to appeal to the Board of Township Trustees and then to the Court of Common Appeal, please. As a result, we must employ different procedures from the other cases that we are typically presented to the Zoning Commission. Because this is a quasi-judicial proceeding, the Commission will only receive evidence as to whether the application meets or does not meet the standards and criteria in the zoning resolution. We do not want to hear opinions, just facts. As a result, all persons presenting testimony before the Commission, whether for or against the applicant's position, may only do so after being sworn in and being subject to cross-examination. The staff will present a summary of the application. The applicant will then present its case. The board members may ask questions of the staff and anyone who speaks on behalf of the applicant. If an attorney presents the case for the applicant, the attorney is not sworn in and is not considered to be a witness. As a result, the attorney's statements are not considered as evidence. Evidence only comes in through the witnesses who testify before the Commission after being sworn in. The burden is on the applicant to present evidence that the application satisfies the standards and criteria for approval. After the applicant presents its case to the witnesses, all persons in the audience supporting the application will be permitted to testify, one at a time, after being recognized by the chair. When the persons supporting the application are finished, those opposing to the application will then be permitted to testify after being recognized by the chair. If anyone in opposition is represented by an attorney, that party will go first, followed by the members of the audience. As stated previously, all persons wishing to testify, whether for or against the application, may only do so after being sworn in. When testifying, each person from the audience must come forward to the podium after being recognized, speak into the microphone, and state their name, address, and any affiliation to the case. All persons testifying will be limited to 4 minutes unless a commission member requests that they be given additional time. All testimony is directed to the commission only. No comments or questions are to be directed to the applicant or anyone else in the audience. The commission will only hear new, non-repetitive evidence or questions. Should someone wish to show support of previous testimony, they may do so by following the testimony procedures and stating their support or of previous testimony. Now, will all the persons who may give testimony this evening please stand? Raise your right hand and swear or affirm. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay, thank you. All right, and we will start with the staff report.
So our first case tonight is case 2-2018 PUD. I apologize, the address is incorrect on the PowerPoint. It's 8251 Beechmont Avenue, but the applicant tonight is Stephen Kirkpatrick for the Ombre Asset Group, Inc., on behalf of 8251 Beechmont LLC, who is the property owner. The location is 8251 Beechmont Avenue. It's Book 500, Parcel 123, and part of Parcel 2. Or it's page 123 and part of Parcel 2. The zoning is E-retail, and they're requesting approval of a planned unit development application to develop a 18,223 square foot neighborhood hospital. The proposed development is for the partial demolition of the existing building and construction of a new one-story neighborhood hospital with 8 inpatient beds and an emergency department. The applicant is proposing to subdivide the property to create an additional property that the neighborhood hospital will be located on. The proposed building layout will largely replace the eastern portion of the existing shopping center with some modifications to improve internal traffic circulation. The proposed building will be located further from the adjacent property to the east and closer to Beechmont Avenue. A 6-foot pedestrian sidewalk is proposed along the frontage of the proposed lot, and existing parking adjacent to the right-of-way has been removed in favor of landscaping. The proposed building will be constructed of brick, glass, metal panels, and EIFS. So this is the property map from Cages. The hospital, let me get a laser pointer. Their site plan is discussing this portion of the property. So again, this is an aerial map from Cages. And then this is the zoning map from Cages. This is the topography map. And then this was the submitted site plan. So the parking that's existing up here has been removed for a 6-foot sidewalk, in addition to parking being added in the back along with a detention basin. These are the north and south elevations submitted by the applicant, along with the east and west elevations. This was submitted by the applicant, and it's the dumpster enclosure and generator elevations. These are existing pictures of the shopping center. This is the main entrance and exit from Beechmont Avenue. This is the existing shopping center, so that area with parking in the back would be located through here. This is Beechmont Avenue. So the existing sidewalk currently stops down by Taco Bell and then picks back up at Remax, shown up here. So through this whole stretch, there is no sidewalk. However, we are hoping that as it develops down the way, sidewalks will be part of each plan. And then this is the parking lot that will be removed for landscaping and the sidewalk in the new portion of the building. So this is looking at the current parking lot. The side of the building that will be expanded for the small hospital. This is looking at the rear of the building. And then this is the area that would be, is proposed for more parking in the dumpster enclosure. This is to show the screening between the current residents and the existing rear area of the building. This is the current dumpster situation. So staff findings are that in addition to compliance with the township zoning resolution, the development is also being reviewed of adopted plans for this area, such as the Anderson Plan, the Beechmont Plan, the Trails and Walkway Plan, and the Township Design Guidelines. So the proposed site plan is in zoning resolution compliance. However, the location of the sidewalk varies on the landscape plan and the site plan. So staff requests that a new plan be submitted to illustrate consistency within the site plan. The proposal is consistent with the goals and objectives of the Anderson Plan, and it is in its recommendations for enhancing economic activity. The future land use classification identifies the site for general mixed use, which is defined as community-oriented business uses located within a building that also includes office or residential uses on upper floors. The neighborhood hospital meets this description of general mixed use because it is a community-oriented business that has multiple functions within the proposed building. The application is consistent with the following goals of the Anderson Plan: quality of life and economic health, people and housing, land use and development, and Beechmont Avenue will be a viable and attractive destination for local residents and regional destination for the larger community. The proposed development identifies the pedestrian connectivity that we've mentioned previously. That includes a 6-foot pedestrian sidewalk along the frontage of the proposed property. The site falls within Neighborhood 3 of the recently adopted Beechmont Plan, which consolidated all Beechmont plans into one document. Recommendations for this neighborhood include the following: neighborhood character, access management, landscape. The proposed development achieves the following from the Beechmont Plan: a human-scaled monument size that reduces visual clutter in the area, the proposed driveway along with the property to the north across from Beechmont Avenue. The proposed driveway restricts left turns onto Beechmont Avenue, which will improve safety of the neighborhood. Cross-access to New England Club Drive and the properties to the west is currently provided. Substantial quality building materials are proposed. And then the following are areas consistent with the design guidelines and areas recommended to come into compliance. Site planning and architecture we've mentioned previously. For the landscaping proposed along Beechmont Avenue, staff suggests increasing the number of trees along the frontage of the building to provide street trees along Beechmont Avenue. So the following, staff feels that the following is consistent with the plan unit development evaluation criteria. I'd be happy to answer any questions about that. And then staff's notes and recommendation conditions. Staff recommends the following conditions: an increase in the number of trees proposed at the frontage of the building in order to avoid a blank wall and provide straight trees along Beechmont Avenue. A lighting plan to be resubmitted in compliance with the minimum light requirements of the Anderson Township zoning resolution. A shared parking agreement with the shopping center shall be recorded and submitted to the township. And all plan sheets should be consistent with the proposed sidewalk located along the street. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Well, we'll start down with Commissioner Boone.
Sure. Has there been any traffic safety studies done or anything, any kind of traffic counts or anything as it relates to this?
Not one that's been submitted to us.
Okay. Has there been any discussion about noise pollution to the neighbors behind the facility?
No.
Proposed facility? No? Okay, so I'll ask the applicant some of those questions. So, all right, thanks.
I apologize, I didn't get a chance to really look at where it is right now. Is there currently a stormwater basin there, or is this being added?
It's being added.
Okay,
There's a little drain, but it's being expanded to
okay.
handle more of the water.
And if I'm understanding, this is actually now breaking it into 2 parcels, and we're just dealing with the partial, the 1 parcel,
Yes, ma'am.
correct? All right, thank you.
I have no questions of staff, thank you.
I don't have any questions either.
The cross easement where you exit through the New England Club, is that a township responsible for that easement, the road, the maintaining of it? Or is it the owner of the parcel?
The owner of the parcel.
Okay. Is that easement already recorded that that will continue?
Yes.
Okay.
The easement behind Taco Bell to past.
The,
by
yeah,
Will
the
Fenwick's.
realtor and
Yes.
the, whatever, the plant place?
Yes,
Okay.
that's established.
All right. This time, we'll, no further questions of staff. We'll ask the applicant to come forward. State your name, your address, and your affiliation with the case.
Good evening, my name is Stephen Kirkpatrick. I'm with Embry Asset Group. Our address is 4747 Williams Drive, and that's in Georgetown, Texas. And we are the developer of this project. Thank you for your time tonight. I'll give a little brief overview of the use and then be happy to answer any questions you may have. Our neighborhood hospital will have 8 inpatient beds and 7 treatment rooms for emergencies. And so those are the 2 main functions, lower acuity level patients for inpatient side and then lower level emergencies. We're also going to have laboratory services for blood and urinary analysis, as well as CT and X-ray radiology services. We do have food service that will be provided, but no cooking is done on site. All of that is brought in and simply removed and prepared for the patients there, but not cooked on site, so there's no food service there. And other than that, I think staff did a very good job with our with the presentation, so I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, again, we'll start. Commissioner Boone.
Sure. So noise pollution, I think, is a bit of a concern with it. There's some residences behind there. Do you anticipate ambulances all hours of the night pulling in, sirens blaring? Is that
We generally don't. As a hospital, it's licensed like any other hospital. It has to have an ambulance entrance and ambulance service.
Sure.
The majority, in this type of model, the majority of ambulance traffic is usually taking a stabilized patient away from the facility rather than a delivery to the hospital by ambulance. And then once again, also we have potentially patients that are sleeping at night as well and staff that's working in the facility. So we would restrict any kind of sirens once the ambulance entered into the property. So,
is this considered like an urgent care, or is it more of a traditional?
it's not. It fills a gap, really. It's a niche between urgent care and major emergencies at a big, large campus. It's generally classified as a level 4 emergency center. Get some traffic after urgent care is closed, for example, and somebody may not want to wait until they open the next morning. So we see those type of patients sometimes delivered by friends or family, or even self-driven patients in the facility.
Okay. All right, that's all I have right now.
Are you ready for me? Okay.
Absolutely.
Question concerning the generator. Do we know how loud, what the decibel level will be, and when that actually kicks on?
It would obviously kick on only in emergencies and then for monthly or annual testing. They're actually surprisingly quiet. It is a diesel generator. I don't know the exact decibel level, but they are surprisingly quiet. We have done some of these in some even more residential settings and had some very strict requirements. I don't know exactly what those were, but it's not a loud generator. Our testing requirements are usually about 30 minutes per month. And then I think once a year, there's a test that's maybe an hour long, but that's how often. Otherwise, if the power does not go out, the generator would not come on.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a few questions. The mechanical screen that's on the roof, will that be higher than the mechanical units on the roof?
Yeah, absolutely.
No visibility to those units at all?
It'll be equal to the height, so yeah, that's the intent, is to completely shield those. We don't like the look of them either, to tell you the truth, so.
And the generator enclosure, same thing, 11'4", that'll cover the entire generator, including base, stand, everything, so you will not see any of the generator?
That's correct.
Is the detention basin a shared basin with the adjacent, retail group, or is it just for the parcel that's being subdivided?
It is just for the parcels being subdivided. There is currently no detention in the entire site, and then according with the redevelopment standards, our civil engineer sized that just for our parcel.
All right, on the plans, there's a proposed riser room on the adjacent. I'm assuming you're taking out the riser room for the current retail. Do you have an idea of the height of that building, the material of it? It's actually servicing, it looks like, the existing retail.
That's correct. It does service the entire building from that riser room. Our line of demarcation, if you will, is on the wrong side of the riser room, so we would be essentially constructing a riser room at the back of that building around the existing riser equipment, and we would use the same materials for the existing building that are there to remain, and obviously terminate any of the services that go towards the east to the building, the portions that's being demolished.
And the height of that enclosure will not exceed the existing building?
Oh, no, it won't exceed the existing building, no.
And then for the east and west elevations, they're fairly bland, to be honest with you. Is there something that could be done to improve their aesthetics? You have ephes really between, at all the windows with no relief, no reveals, no change of material or color. Is there something that could be done to, enhance its aesthetics?
We could do that in some way. I'm sure there's things we can do. Be happy to work with staff and make that happen. We'll also have some signage on the west elevation when we get time to permit that. But some of the signage, the directional signage, ambulance, and the patient entrance is currently shown on the plans. But we'll also have building identification signage as well on that west elevation.
I don't see any demarcation of signage on the east and the west. This is sort of more towards the north on the elevations. But there is plans for.
We are currently working on that. That's correct, yes. And nothing on the east side because it's really against a very big grade and existing building, so no need for any signage over there. But and we're not proposing anything there. But everything on the west elevation we'll have some signage proposed.
That's all the questions I have right now.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple questions. Embry, where else have you guys done this kind of development, and what's your track record?
For the neighborhood hospitals, we have a few in Kansas City as well as Cincinnati. I'm sorry, as well as Indianapolis, and we've done projects all over the country. But for this type of model, just in those two markets.
How long have you been in those other markets?
Some of them are just coming on board now. We have one that's been open about a year in Indianapolis, and things are running well. We open up more every month, essentially.
Is that the sole business of your company, or do you guys do other things like assisted living or stuff like that?
We do assisted living, senior care, all kinds of retail clients, fast food, and pretty much the gamut. Anybody will develop a form.
Okay. And I missed this at the beginning. Did you say there's going to be a surgery center in this building as well? Or
No.
Okay.
No surgeries will be performed. They do have a trauma room, which is a larger exam room for somebody that comes in, but there's no surgery, no scheduled procedures at the facility.
So are the rooms then for somebody who comes in on an emergency basis, or what are the overnight rooms used for then?
They're used for, usually anybody that stays overnight would come through the emergency department, but if they needed monitoring of any sort for a few days, they would go basically across the other side of the building to the inpatient side. Average length of stay is probably going to be between 2 and 5 days, nothing longer than that. Generally, those types of folks would need different care and be transferred out.
Okay, interesting. And I would agree with what Mr. Gothard said, which is the western elevation, and it sounds like you're agreeable to this. It could really use something to break it up. You know, that could be a tremendous asset, I think, for the center, of course. But like a knee wall of a contrasting material, like a brick or something, I think would really improve the appearance of that. Thank you.
I just had a couple questions. For the ambulances or for traffic in general, how would they, if they're coming westbound, how would they enter the complex and to get to you? Would they have to traverse through the New England and through the parking lot, through the other retail, or is there?
That is one option, but our entrance right by the emergency drop-off does allow left in from Beechmont, just restricts the left out for patients and patrons from the center leaving.
And you have like a canopy or something in the design I saw where they drive through?
Yes, that's correct.
If staff could put up the picture of the behind, that's today, that one there, what do you see happening with the growth and the fence? It looks like there is a fence there, maybe a 6-foot fence back there that's covered up by a lot of the growth. I know there's going to be parking there, but how far back will the parking go?
The parking occupies just a little bit of an area back there on the north and west sides of the detention pond. It would go almost to the current edge of pavement there, but would not go any further to the east, so that's the detention pond.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anyone want a second pass? Okay. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in support of the plan? Okay. At this time, for the people who have been sworn in, those wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward, state your name in any certain order. I thought I swore in like 6 people. Okay. All right.
Is it too late to be sworn in? I didn't realize that was the time when I was supposed to be sworn in.
Were you here when I read it?
I did.
Okay, please stand up. Please recognize that I did read it to you. And please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I did.
Okay. Please come forward, state your name and your address and any affiliation you have to the proposal.
My name is Connie Igo. I represent the Sizzling Walk Restaurant at 8257 Beechmont. This proposal is obviously going to take our restaurant out. So I'm just, I guess the big question is, it's obviously going to be up to you guys, how many medical facilities or hospitals do you need within a 5-mile radius? It seems like it's, I don't see the necessity for it, but, you know, and we have quite a few employees. Our restaurant has been there for 33 years, since that 1985, and there's quite a few people who, you know, earn a living there, and those people are going to be displaced and put out of business. The owner, obviously, is going to be put out of business. So, you know, I'm just thinking that maybe you could take into consideration probably the nostalgia, or as such. We have a very good fan base, a lot of loyal customers. Everybody that comes, I've been screening calls to ask me, oh my gosh, you're leaving, what's going to happen? So a lot of our customer base is opposed to this, and they in turn also say the same thing. That's what we need, another medical facility. So for what it's worth, just like to, you know, on the other side, how we feel about what's being proposed.
Okay. Anyone in the commission have a question?
No.
Okay, thank you for your input.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else want to speak in opposition? Okay, at this time I will close that part and open it up for the commission to speak or to advance a motion? We'll start this time with Commissioner Ely.
Okay, thank you. Well, I appreciate what Ms. Igo said, but, and sometimes it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and sometimes it's just the market, and if you do look up and down Beechmont Avenue, there is a lot of retail in this same age group that needs to be filled, and you do see an overcapacity of that, and you do see it's common that the new era in shopping centers is this kind of service use. There is a demand in the suburban areas for medical use. It seems like really an ideal reuse of that property, in my opinion. I would support it with a little bit of the touching up of the architecture on it. Thank you.
Commissioner Gothard?
No comments.
Commissioner Baggio?
I have no comment.
Commissioner Boone?
Well, Mrs. Igo, I enjoy the sizzling wok. You can look at me and see I like to eat. It's a great place. I hope if this goes through, you can relocate. As far as the number of hospitals and things, it's all market-driven, and, I'm not one to try to sit here and dictate whether or not Ombre Group's going to be successful with that. It's not really our responsibility, but certainly wish you the best if this moves forward. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. This time, the chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. Make a motion to approve case 2-2018 PUD with staff conditions, and also adding that the applicant works with staff to address the aesthetics of the east and the west elevation. The mechanical screen meet or exceed the height of all mechanical units on the roof, and the generator enclosure meet or exceed the height of the generator that's inside of it, and that the existing building riser enclosure match the adjacent building's materials and does not exceed the existing building height.
Okay, so for clarification, you're going to include the 4 and add on what you just mentioned.
Include the 4 and add on.
Staff, did you? You have that?
Is the mechanical enclosure height?
Meet or exceed the mechanical units.
Okay. And then same generator enclosure,
generator.
meet or exceed. And then the riser enclosure on the other building does not exceed the existing height and is constructed with similar materials.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll
Do you have a
second.
second? You have a second? No modifications? Okay. Please call the roll.
Mr. Eliff?
Yes.
Mr. Gothard?
Yes.
Ms. DeBaggio?
Yes.
Mr. Boone?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes. Thank you. We'll now move into the second case. And just point of clarification for those that took the oath that did not. Taking the oath was just for the first case as a quasi-judicial, but I appreciate the effort. All right, the second case is a public hearing to discuss the major modification to case 1-2015, request for new directional signage for the property located at 7661 Beechmont Avenue. It's Zone 00, Planned Office. The applicant has filed with ASI Signage Innovations on behalf of the Anderson MOB LLC property owner. Go with the staff report.
So our second case tonight is case 1-2015, a major modification. It is for 7661 Beechmont Avenue. The applicant is Ray Siegel, the sales consultant at ASI, on behalf of Cincinnati for Anderson MOB LLC, who is the property owner. Its location is 7661 Beechmont Avenue, Book 500, page 204, parcel 237. The zoning is 00 Planned Office. And the request is for a major modification to Resolution 15-0820-02 for a private traffic control sign at the property located at 7661 Beechmont Avenue. The proposal is for a private traffic control sign that's 74 inches or 6.16 feet high and 46 square feet in total. The Anderson Township zoning resolution permits private traffic control signs to be a maximum of 8 feet high and 4 square feet. A little bit of history for this property. It was rezoned from E Retail Business District, DD Planned Multifamily, and B Residence to OO Planned Office in 2015 with Case 1-2015, and the building was constructed in 2016. The following is the property map from Cages, which doesn't show the building on it. Cages hasn't been updated since it was constructed. The aerial, however, does show the building on it, and McDonald's is up here, and this is Beechmont Avenue. And this is the topography map. There is also not an updated zoning map for this property. The zoning map that's still on Cages has all the separate zones shown. So this is the site plan that was submitted by the applicant that shows the proposed private traffic control sign being located in the front of the building as you come in off of Beechmont. So parallel with the driveway at Wolf Angle. This is the elevation of the sign. This is another elevation showing the location of the sign. And these are pictures of the site. So this is standing at the sidewalk as you come in along Wolf Angle. Yeah, as you come in along Wolf Angle. And this is a side view of the building. The sign would be over here. And this is the other side of the building. The sign would be over here. This is looking past the sign and towards Anderson High School in the rear. This is looking out towards the intersection at Beechmont and Wolf Angle. This is standing from that same sidewalk that I mentioned before, looking at where the sign is proposed. It's proposed to be right there. This is an example of a private traffic control sign that is already in the town center. So staff findings are that any modification to the approved final development plan that fails to meet the requirements set forth in Article 5.1C2 but does not infringe upon a specific requirement or standard set forth in the development's approving resolution as approved by the Board of Township Trustees shall be considered a major modification to the final development plan. A condition was placed in the original zone change resolution that no freestanding signage is allowed on site. A private traffic control sign on this site is permitted. However, the applicant is requesting a larger one than what is permitted per the zoning resolution. For approval, there shall be findings that the directional sign will be substantial conformance as adopted by the Board of Township Trustees. And per Article 5.5G5, a private traffic control sign is permitted a maximum of 4 square feet and a maximum height of 8 square feet above finished grade. The proposed sign, which is 46 square feet, is similar to those seen among other locations along Beechmont Avenue, such as the Town Center and Anderson Hills United Methodist Church. The Town Center and the church both have private traffic control signs that are 12.5 square feet at the church and 71.55 square feet and 38 square feet at the town center. The proposed sign will be set back 360 feet from Beechmont Avenue, but will be visible from the entry drive. It will not have illumination and will be located within an area that is already landscaped. The applicant asserts the requested variance is in harmony with the intent of the OO planned office zoning classification because the proposed sign is not along Beechmont Avenue, but is instead within the interior of the parcel. The grant of this major modification allows clients to identify the 4 tenants within the building. Furthermore, granting this major modification will not have adverse effects on any of the adjacent property owners or those in the vicinity. So the signage is consistent with adopted plans such as the Anderson Township Design Guidelines, which encourages the shape and materials of the sign should complement the architectural features of the building. The proposed signage is consistent with the comprehensive plan goals for Beechmont Avenue and economic health, as well as prior decisions and comparable cases located on or near Beechmont Avenue. Staff recommends approval of the sign modification as the proposed sign improvements are consistent with the approving resolution for the site and conditions contained in the case. The signage is consistent with adopted plans such as the Anderson Township Design Guidelines and Comprehensive Plan. The proposed improvements are appropriately set back from Beechmont Avenue. The proposed sign, while larger than permitted in Plan Office Zoning District, are consistent with sign sizes in the vicinity such as the Anderson Town Center and Anderson Hills United Methodist Church. The modifications allow for the applicant to realize a reasonable profit from the property while not compromising the intent of the office zoning district. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Again, we'll start down with Commissioner Boone.
No questions for staff, thanks.
And I just had a quick question, Sarah. Did I hear you correctly, and I believe when I went by that part, there's no standalone signage at all for that building right now, whether on the street, interior, or anything like that?
Correct. They were only allowed signage on the building.
Okay, thank you.
I have no questions.
Okay.
This time we'll open up to anyone who wants to speak in support. The applicant is here. Please come forward, state your name, address, and affiliation.
Good evening. My name is Ray Siegel with ASI Signage. I'm the applicant working with Al Nyer. We were brought into the project to help them come up with a design of a sign at the entrance. And going back to the resolutions, we discovered there was no sign allowed. 2 signs on the wall were already taken up. If you saw the image earlier showed 2 signs, so that's already taken care of. Initial thought I had was maybe do a directory on the building. That obviously couldn't happen. So we started working through designs to make it work with the design of the building. The base itself will be 2 feet tall, which will rise it above the plantings and the bed. From there, it's only 4 feet tall, with 6 panels for the 6 occupants that will be in the building at some point. With just the 2 wall signs, right now those 2 are in the building, and there's two other tenants in the building as well. Obviously, their patients or their clients have no idea that they're at the right place. Looking back, the initial resolution called for no monument signs because there was a monument sign at the road that was taken away, and that was didn't allow for a sight triangle and other information for safety. So we came up with the plan of doing a sign directly in line with the entrance, clearly visible from the driveway. The top portion of it I've been proposing matches the aluminum band at the top, so it brings in the look of the existing building. We thought about using stone that's on the columns next to it, but there's none left over from construction, so we didn't want to try to mix and match. So we'll go with a complementary base color that will blend in well with the plantings. So I think we have come up with a nice, simple, smaller design. The 4 square feet obviously wouldn't have done a whole lot for the building itself with 6 tenants, but I think it's a nice complement to the existing architecture.
Okay, thank you. Open up for questions. Commissioner Boone?
I've got a couple.
Sure.
Materials, you said aluminum-like.
Aluminum. It is aluminum. The paint will be aluminum-like, like Matthews paint, like a silver metallic, to match the band at the top of the building.
So it'll be an aluminum sign.
It'll be all aluminum sign,
Color
not...
will match the building.
Correct. Non-illuminated, just aluminum panels.
So it is non-illuminated?
Correct.
Okay. And then what are the actual graphics
The graphics will just simply be the name of the tenant in a font. We didn't want to put logos on it. It kind of looks a little NASCAR-ish, if you will. So it'll just be a simple font. All 6 panels will be the same font, relative size.
So similar to the images that you submitted?
Exactly the image that we submitted, yes. And I don't have anything showing me the size, but roughly 18 inches by 3 feet or somewhere in that range. It's not even on there, shoot, sorry.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Companies, or they have different entrances around the building?
So there's one main entrance on the front, and you can go up the stairs to the second floor or go straight in. Cincinnati GI occupies mainly the first floor. There will be entrances there is an entrance on the side that also has stairs, which some tenants can use, and then Cincinnati GI actually will be subleasing the back. So they have exits out the back for a couple spaces. So not everybody will be able to access their space from the front entrance. Some will choose to access from the side and can access from the
Does that confuse people, consumers that come in to see Cincinnati CI or CGI?
Cincinnati GI will all enter in from the front, but yes, as one of the tenants that we have currently looking at the back, we'll usually sometimes we'll put their name and put an arrow or something. So yes, it can get confusing when you have entrances that are not always in the main entrance.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the?
Excuse me, what was your name?
I'm Jessica Chung, Cheung, with Alnier.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Anyone else want to speak in support? Anyone opposed to this case? Okay. This time I will close the public part and ask the commissioners if you have anything to discuss. That's, okay, great. All right, I will take a motion at this point.
I'll make a motion to approve case 1-2015, major modification, to allow for the ground mounted sign with added condition that the sign base of 2 feet be a similar stone to the building.
Okay. Say a second. I just have a question. Does that change it into a monument sign by putting the base? No. Okay. Great. Then. Got a second? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Eliff?
Yes.
Mr. Gothard?
Yes.
Ms. DeBaggio?
Yes.
Mr. Boone? Mr. Lewis?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the last case of the evening, the public hearing, discuss a major modification to case 4-2014 Anderson, request to enclose the existing patio with an addition. The property is located at 7640 Beechmont Avenue. It's zoned EE planned retail. The application is filed by McBride Dale Clarion on behalf of Kroger Limited Partnership, the property owner. Staff?
So case 4-2014, major modification for 7640 Beechmont Avenue. Our applicant is Gregory Dale, FAICP, on behalf of McBride Dale Clarion, which is on behalf of the Kroger Company of Cincinnati, who is the property owner. The location is 7640 Beechmont Avenue, Book 500, page 202, parcel 212. Our zoning is EE Planned Business District, and the applicant is requesting a major modification to the final development plan for case 1-2014 Anderson. They are proposing to enclose the 875 square foot patio space to create a 3 Seasons dining space on the 6,070 square foot building closest to Wolf Angle Road. Kroger's Kitchen 1883 is proposed to occupy 4,150 square feet of the building. An open patio was presented and approved during the final development plan review in 2014. So a little bit of site history. The Beechmont Mall was constructed in the late 1960s on the site of the existing Kroger and neighboring properties. The mall was expanded in the 1980s. In 1999, some anchoring tenants had closed their doors, leaving several vacancies. Victory developed the existing Anderson Town Center, and Kroger bought their property in 2003. Zoning Certificate 2004-014 allowed for the construction of the existing Kroger building, including drive-through lanes for the pharmacy and bank, plus a building and canopy for gasoline sales, parking improvements, landscaping, lighting, and sidewalks. And then for this case history, Kroger applied for a change in zoning of the properties from C residence, E retail, and E PUD retail to EE planned retail for a 50,000 square foot addition to the existing Kroger facility, plus approximately 18,500 square feet of retail development at the corner of Beechmont and Wolfangle Road, plus parking modifications in case 4-2014 Anderson. The trustees approved the zone change in December of 2014, and the Zoning Commission approved the final development plan for Phase 1, which was the Kroger expansion, in February of 2015, and final development plan for Phase 2, the shops at Anderson Town Center, was approved May 2015 with 2 variances, including a front yard setback and a setback of 10 feet from the right-of-way for 2 dumpster enclosures. 3 Board of Zoning Appeals cases apply to this parcel. Case 9-2004 BZA granted a variance from the maximum height of interior light poles in the parking lot. Case 12-2004 BZA approved wall signs for the main building and fuel center. And case 15-2004 approved a unified sign plan for the entire Anderson Town Center site. So this is the property map from Cajus. Again, Cajus hasn't updated, so it doesn't show the 2 buildings, but the one that we are talking about is about right in here. This is the aerial, again, not updated, the topography map, and the site plan. So this is the building in the area that we are talking about. These are the west and south elevations of the property. North and east elevations of that building. And this is the side along Wolfangle. Okay, so this is what is there today. This picture was taken last week, so this is the area on the plaza that would be enclosed. Along the whole fence area is where the enclosure would take place. So the brick wall on the elevation would be this side facing Wolfangle. Again, a view from the top of the platform on the plaza. From the sidewalk on Wolfangle looking towards McAllister's. From on the ramp. Again, from the ramp looking towards the other side of Beechmont Avenue, McAllister's. Then this is looking down Wolfangle towards Town Center Way. And then this is standing at Beechmont, looking towards the Wolfangle side. So staff findings are that any modification to the approved final development plan that fails to meet the requirements set forth in Article 5.1C2 but does not infringe upon a specific requirement or standard as set forth in the development's approving resolution as adopted by the Board of Township Trustees shall be considered a major modification to the final development plan. So the site falls within the downtown Anderson neighborhood, neighborhood 3 of the Beechmont plan, which consolidated all plans into one document. Recommendations for this neighborhood include neighborhood character, access management, landscape, and architecture. The 3 Seasons enclosure in lieu of an outdoor patio will allow use of the space throughout the year and during inclement weather, while also providing the feel of patio seating. The architectural style of the enclosure is consistent with the style of the existing building including a mixture of brick, ephes, and stone. However, the east elevation contains no windows as it is adjacent to the ramp from the sidewalk along Wolf Angle. While the enclosure is no longer than the originally approved patio, the brick wall in conjunction with the fencing for the ramp does not feel like the plaza space is smaller. Does feel like the plaza space is smaller. The proposed patio enclosure has a front yard setback of 11.3 feet to Wolf Angle, which is consistent with the previously approved 8 feet 11 inches. So staff recommends approval of a major modification to the final development plan for case 4-2014 Anderson for the patio enclosure, as the proposed improvements are consistent with approving resolution for the site and conditions contained in the case. The enclosure is consistent with adopted plans such as the Beechmont Plan and Anderson Township Comprehensive Plan. The proposed improvements are consistent with setbacks approved for the building. The modifications allow the applicant to realize a reasonable profit for the property while not compromising the intent of the district.
Okay, thank you. We have questions for staff, starting with Commissioner Boone.
I'm struggling to see exactly what this is going to look like. I've been through all these pictures and tried to read everything, and they talk a little bit about materials, but I don't really see a clear picture of what this is going to look like. Has there been any additional information provided?
There's been nothing else.
Well, we asked the applicant. Yeah.
Questions of staff, thank you.
I had one question for Sarah, which was, in our packet, there was a good amount of material on signage, including on the drawings, but we're not considering that, are we, tonight, or are we?
I didn't know, we are not.
Just talking about
Okay, all right, that's what I thought, but just curious. Thank you.
Okay, I don't have anything at this time. I do have questions for the applicant. If you'll come forward, state your name, your address, and your affiliation.
Great, thank you. Good evening. My name's Greg Dale. I'm a principal with McBride Dale Clarion here on behalf of the Kroger Company. We're at 5721 Dragon Way. I have a couple of folks here with me that could answer some of the questions that you've read, including Shelby Hurl, who's the Kroger engineer, and Heidi Deemers, did I get that right, who was the interior designer of the store.
If you come up, I would just state your name and spell it if needed.
Yeah. So I really don't have a lot to add to what staff said. I would point out that just to be clear, we're focusing just on this enclosure area. There's nothing else with regard to the final plan that's being modified. The sign package was included for information. It is not before you tonight. That would have to, we'd have to come back and get that approved, but we wanted you to see those. So probably what would be best, I know you have a couple of questions, I think I would just stop there and have the folks from Kroger come up and help me try to answer those questions that you have,
Okay.
if that's appropriate.
Why don't you, the three of you come up, stand, just give your name, affiliation, and then whoever wants to answer the question, we'll ask our questions, and any of you can, all of you can step forward and answer the question.
Just introduce yourself.
Good. Again, I'm Heidi Demers. I manage store design for Kroger Corporate here in town.
Shelby Hurl, I'm the regional project manager in construction.
Okay.
Did you need us to spell that?
I think he has it. Okay. This time we'll start with Commissioner.
I don't have a question. I'll defer to my fellow board members on that.
I've got questions. A couple questions. It talks about the material is going to be similar to the adjacent building. Is it going to be the exact same materials, exact same colors, everything fall through?
So I have a few renderings that might help. In the packet, there weren't renderings of the line drawings, which is a little bit hard to see because
Share.
Sarah, maybe you could pull up the elevations again.
So that helps you see we will use the exact same brick, the exact same ephes, and really the design intent is to tie into the development.
Now, the glazing
coming off.
looks different than
It's
the
coming
other.
off.
Is it operable? Are you going to be
Yes,
able to
it's
open it?
operable. There are 3 operable kind of garage door windows that can open, and so you feel like you're indoor out. We felt that in this climate, just having umbrellas, even the last couple months, would have been too hot to be out there, and when it gets cold in the winter. We think this will be more of a three season, on the very, very cold days, probably people wouldn't want to be out there. But yes, those can open up so you feel like you're sitting outside and it can really feel like you're in that courtyard area.
Right. So during weather, when anybody would be sitting in any of the outdoor areas, any of the plazas, it would feel like it's part of that outdoor patio experience.
And then on the east elevation, I know that the ramp's there, but I guess this commissioner's personal opinion is it'd be nice to extend the windows, at least at the higher from the water table up across that elevation.
Yeah, and I think
to
we could,
unify it with the rest of the building.
I think we can consider that. When we were working on the design, we wanted it to feel more kind of like an extension of the pub. So that was an opportunity to do some signage, if you see the interior renderings, rather than, that ramp where people might just be, you'd see their legs coming down the ramp. So we can explore that, certainly, if you'd like us to come back with some interior renderings.
Yeah, looking at the picture of the ramp there, that water table, you've got the stone and the water table,
Yeah.
sort of above there, you're kind of out of the ramp view at that point in time. So,
Agreeable.
okay. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Can I just ask you to explain what is Kroger 1883?
1883 was the year that Bonnie Kroger opened his first grocery store on Court Street in downtown Cincinnati.
Okay.
So that's why we picked that name.
Okay, but it is truly a restaurant.
It is truly a restaurant. There is already one open in Union, Kentucky. It's actually inside of our store. There's an outside entrance, but it is adjacent to like the deli area, the Starbucks area. So you can see in and out of the store. And the food is kind of a pub American style food. You can get a hamburger or a salad or, I had a tuna ahi salad there. So, and there's a full bar. There's 98 seats inside the restaurant, about 20 in the bar, and 60 in this outdoor patio.
Okay.
So it will accommodate quite a large group.
All right, the last question I basically have, or kind of a comment question, is that I remember when this all came through for final approval, and the one thing that was kind of stressed is that when you sit in that outdoor area, not in the patios for the two restaurants necessarily, but on the steps and all, that it was deemed to be more of a gathering place. Is there, when you add this structure, it kind of negates some of that gathering space because you've infiltrated that space. Was there any thought about, instead of this, just doing something that was more temporary, or do you really feel the need for this?
We did think about something more temporary. When we went back to, how many people we can accommodate at one time, and the weather, and hot and cold, we really decided that in order to have a full restaurant, and we don't take up that whole space. There's another tenant space that
Right.
is adjacent. So when we looked at the 4,000 square feet inside, having that additional 900, less than 900 square feet outside as a 3-season rather than maybe only a 2-season, it really made us think about how we could design it so the windows would open up, where we would encourage people to come in and sit and get food and drinks there, rather than just be out by the fountain or something. But you can see other people coming and going, and that's part of the fun of being in a restaurant like that. And we looked at other restaurants, Kona Grill and some of the other places that can be semi-enclosed, so you're inside, but you can see people coming and going. So we did weigh that, and then from a cost perspective, this will be more to build, but we feel it's important to be open more of the time during the season and have a patio that can have actually a fire pit too. We won't have a big fireplace, but similar to just a gas heating going on in the winter.
Okay, and structurally, is this literally a separate structure that's kind of attached?
Well, it will be. There will be a roof structure attached to those columns. We won't have heating and cooling systems going in out there, so it's not like another building. It'll be a roof with the columns,
Okay,
with those windows that open up.
all right, thank you, that's it for me.
Yeah.
Well, the new rendering kind of eases some of my anxiety. I was thinking it would be more of that temporary, tent-like kind of structure.
Yeah, that's good.
I I do share some of the concerns about the open space and the whole idea behind utilizing that, but I think you've done a nice job here, indoor, outdoor, and windows that are, they're not really garage doors, they're just, they're windows.
Well, they're not full to the floor, so there'll be a small pony wall that they'll open up, so not you can't walk in and out of them. It's because of we considered the liquor laws that you don't want people walking out with the beer onto that patio, onto the courtyard area.
Yeah, okay. You're just gonna have to tear out all the fencing and just put it in?
So I didn't realize it was there, so yes, we are.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, okay. So I guess I just heard the gate that's outside, the entry that's out is going away.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, I was also on the commission when we first reviewed this, and we loved the design, the aesthetics, the symmetry with McAllister, or the deli, that it seemed like that was going to be a gathering space. I even thought we talked about there was going to be music and stuff like that. It sort of breaks that up now that you're blocking it off in a bit. And, I'm not going to, it's more of a comment than a zoning, but it was sad to see that go without even, you haven't even opened yet.
And I agree with you, but I think when we did weigh the weather, then, in the winter and the hot summers, we will probably have live music in there in the winter time, so we could use it more often during the year. And opening up those windows, if there was somebody performing out there by the fountain, you could see them and coming and going. So we hope that it would accomplish both.
Okay.
And just extend the life of the patio.
Again, it was more of a comment, not so much related to approving or not approving, so.
Yeah, and I saw that it was from 2014, so, it goes back a few years. Took us a while.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant?
Just, I guess, one comment. Looking at the sign, I know it's not on the agenda, but you may want to look at the township zoning requirement.
For size.
For sign size, and also box sign requirements. Or
Okay, great.
not requirements.
We will do that.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else wanting to speak in support? Anyone opposing? No? Okay. This time we'll close the public part and open them among the commissioners.
I think they did a lovely job with it and tying them together. I still have very mixed feelings because the next person will be McAllister's wanting to do something similar. And now we've lost most of that entire outdoor space, which was originally agreed to be a community gathering space. That's my real hesitation. That's the only hesitation now.
Okay.
No additional comments?
Yeah, I don't have too much to say, except I did really appreciate the additional elevation we saw tonight. I think it looks really sharp, and that'll be a nice addition. And I'm hopeful, I like hearing the history from the fellow board members, but I'm hopeful that will actually bring maybe more activity down there, because you'll want to go down there when you might otherwise just be limited to outdoor space. So I like it.
Great. I have no further comment than what I said earlier, so this time I'll open it up to a motion.
I'll make it that. I'll make a motion to approve major modification case 4-2014 Anderson Kroger, 7640 Beechmont Avenue. First staff comments, but I'd also, of course, like to add a comment that on the east elevation, that glazing be introduced for the addition from the water table line accent band upward to mimic the existing building.
Okay, well, good stuff.
East elevation, that glazing be added from the water table upward to mimic existing building?
Okay.
Or you could even say existing east elevation.
Does anybody need that read back, or we good for a second?
That's good. A second?
For a second? Please call roll.
Mr. Eliff?
Yes.
Mr. Gothard?
Yes.
Ms. DeBaggio?
Yes.
Mr. Boone?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes. Thank you. At this time, do we have anything on the agenda for next month? Okay. Thank you, and then we'll adjourn.